The internet can be a wild place, and your online activities might be more easily tracked and monitored than you can imagine. So, let's deep dive into understanding and building your own proxies for increased anonymity and protection. Before we start building, let's talk about what proxies are. Imagine you're running a lemonade stand and you're curious about how the rival stand across the street is making their lemonade so popular. So instead of marching over there yourself, you decide to hire someone, and let's call him John, to simply pretend to be a customer and go to the rival stand and taste the lemonade, check out the secret recipe, and then discreetly report everything back to you. This is similar to how proxies work. John here is acting like your proxy, gathering information and communicating it to you without revealing your identity. Similarly, in the digital world, proxies work like this undercover agents who go to the websites on your behalf and fetch the information you require without revealing your identity. Let's talk about the key benefits of proxies. Privacy and anonymity. This is done by hiding your IP address, making it harder for websites to track you. Access to restricted content. Proxies can help you bypass these geo restrictions. It's like having a friend in that region who can open that door for you. Just like the lemonade stand scenario, if you didn't care about keeping your identity under wraps and strolled over to act like a customer, there's a chance that the owner could spot you and decide to treat you differently. And you wouldn't want that. Enhanced security. Proxies add an extra layer of protection. When you connect through a proxy, your direct connection to the website is masked. It's like sending your friend to the store instead of going yourself. Less risky, more security. Now, that's enough of the theory. Let's start building. You would need to create an Ubuntu server on the cloud for this step. You can use any cloud provider like GCP, AWS, DigitalOcean, etc. I'll be using Google Cloud for this demonstration. After you have created the VM, let's SSH into the server. You can either use the SSH client given by the cloud provider, or you can use your computer's CLI. I would be using my command line, so let me just copy the command. We will be using an open source software called Squid to set up our proxy. Install Squid by running sudo apt install squid. Let's edit the configuration file. I'll be using Vim for this. Feel free to use your choice of text editor. Run vim/etc/squid/squid.conf. Search for HTTP access allow. You would need to uncomment this line. Now, we need to allow the HTTP access, so go down to this line and change this from deny to allow. Save and exit the configuration file. Start the proxy server by running sudo systemctl start squid. We can see the status of the Squid server by running sudo systemctl status squid. The server is up and running. We can now start using the proxy. So, how do we test the proxy? I have developed a Python script to help with that. So let's head to the code editor. The link for this code is in the description as well. The script is pretty straightforward. We are using the requests module in Python to make a request to ipinfo.io/json. This gives the information about the IP the page is requested from. You can see the response simply by opening this URL in the browser. I have hidden my details for privacy reasons, but you would be able to see your IP and details about your internet service provider. Let's go back to the code and start from the main function. So, we first make the request without using the proxy and simply log the response, which would be our own computer. After this, we loop through our proxy list and then call the test proxy function. The proxy list is an array of our proxies. As of now, we only have one. So you can edit this section and add your own server IP. Do note the default port for Squid is 3128. I have already added mine here. We would use the username and password later on. Now moving to the test proxy function, we destructure the proxy object and check if the proxy has a username and password. If so, we would use the proxy with authentication, else we would not add any auth to it. Now, we make the request using the proxy, and like before, the response is logged for us to see. Let's run python3 main.py. You can see that it outputs your home IP. Mine is obviously blacked out. As you can see, our IP has completely changed. In the second log, the location it shows is the same as our server, and so are the other details. You can now use your proxy to surf the web or use it to develop scraping scripts. Well, it's no rocket science that this proxy is incredibly insecure. If the IP and port were to fall in the wrong hands, it could lead to a gross misuse. In fact, let me show you what happened when I left my proxy completely without authentication for a day. You can check the access logs by running sudo tail/var/log/squid/access.log. Wait, let's see more entries by adding /lines 1000. Just look at this. So many requests made to websites from some random IP addresses. I looked up the IP and found out this is an IP in Netherlands. So it is important that you add authentication to the proxies. First, let's create our user and password for the proxy service. We can do this by using this command that allows us to input the username and password and stores it in a /etc/squid/htpassword file. We can now see our user and the hashed password separated by a colon as the output. So let's add protection for the proxy service. Open the Squid configuration file. Let's search for ACL. Type in the following. Let me explain this configuration line by line. Using the auth param basic program, we basically tell Squid to use the basic NCSA auth program, which is a basic authentication helper for Squid that uses an HT password style file for storing usernames and hash passwords. We are providing our username and password by putting in this path /etc/squid/htpassword. Now, auth param basic run authenticated proxy is the name that we are giving for this basic authentication. It is the description or the name that is presented to the users when they are prompted for credentials. In this case, we have kept it as authenticated proxy. The ACL authenticated proxy auth required is basically creating an access control list ACL named authenticated and specifies that it requires basic authentication. This will be used to control access to the proxy based on whether clients provide valid credentials. ACL authenticated IPs. This line also creates another ACL and specifies the source IP that is allowed to access the proxy. I'm not going to be putting my IP here because I already have a firewall in place, but go ahead and add your IP address for added protection. For these ACL to take effect, we will need to go back to our HTTP access allow and add authenticated and authenticated IPs. I'll be commenting out the authenticated IPs as it is not going to work for me. Save and restart the proxy server. The proxy is now online. Let's head back to our Python script and now try running it again. As we can see, we are getting a connection failure and it is telling us proxy authentication required. Now I will add the username and password to my proxy here. Because the username and password is set, we would be using this logic to authenticate with the proxy. The script needs to be modified here. The GitHub link should have the updated code. I need to remove HTTP in the proxy as our auth block already handles that. So I am adding this simple line. This line simply replaces the HTTP string with an empty string. We also need to change the HTTPS to HTTP as we are not using SSL here. Let's run the script again. And there you go. We have successfully connected to the proxy. So there you have it. Not only did we learn about proxies, we have successfully built our very own. Squid is a very powerful tool and you should definitely explore on how you can make the best out of it and enhance your proxy experience. Do like, share and subscribe the video and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.